When the Germans surrendered and dropped their weapons in Lake Ochikoto, as many as 100,000 of Herero and 10,000 Nama indigenous people were exterminated. After the many years of German colonial rule over German Southwest Africa or the modern territory of Namibia, Germany has acknowledged the ripple effects of the total annihilation of its people. About 100 years ago, the Herero and Nama people in modern-day Namibia lost their lives in the most brutal genocide of its century. The tragic and mass atrocities committed by the Nazi regime against our people have left a huge gap in our population and resources. It all started in 1884 Berlin Conference when the Western nations began to partition Africa in what is commonly known as the Scramble for Africa. The then German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck convened this meeting, and the outcome was that Germany take a stronghold of African countries such as Togo, Cameroon, German East and Southwest Africa. Unfortunately, their quest for free living space was met with hostility because the land they settled on was already inhabited by indigenous people, mainly the Herero, who lived here peacefully. The Germans found it increasingly hard to accept the terms of living on a territory which they did not have total control over. Essentially, the resources also belonged to the indigenous people. This did not sit well with them, nor did it fit the racial theories they were used to in Germany. What led to German hostilities was essentially the idea of renting land and buying cattle from indigenous people. Their sole mandate was to settle on the territory and gain full control over resources and the people, which they later did, but to much extremities. There are many instances where the Herero people suffered all sorts of unimaginable abuse, non-payment of their wages, killings fueled by a strong dislike of the indigenous people. With the onset of the rinderpest cattle disease, the Herero people started losing their cattle in epic proportion, this affecting their source of dietary protein, which gave them energy and wealth. The German settlers and soldiers saw the opportunity in the Herero people's physical and economic weakness and became very brutal in their policies and quests to annex the territory. After news of the attempted 1904 rebellion at Okahanja, the Germans launched full-scale war at the important Herero center in Ochimbingwe. What happened here began to repeat elsewhere across the country. This was no longer a rebellion, but a war of independence. The Herero people fought tirelessly against the oppressive nature of German colonial rule. The Nama people also joined in the rebellion under the leadership of Chief Hendrik Witbooi. When the great chief was killed in a crossfire, Jacob Marengo continued to lead his people in the resistance and defense of their homeland. The German governor Theodor Ludwig quickly realized they were significantly outnumbered by the people under the strong leadership of Chief Samuel Maharero. So the German monarch Kaiser Wilhelm II responded by sending a new leader, Lothar van Trotha, to the colony to set up new policies. This time around, the orders is to deliberately exterminate the indigenous people. When the Overherero people realized the danger, they moved to the area of Waterberg. But this did not evade them from the colossal extermination plan and crusade to increase the living space for Germans. On the dawn of the death of the great paramount chief Samuel Maharero in 1907, the rebellion came to a halt. The Germans introduced the system of human enclosures known as concentration camps. In the heart of the capital Windhoek lies the Elterfeste, which was one of the first mass concentration camps and also a military camp or base for the German soldiers. And for many years, men, women, and children were forced into the contract labor system. They worked under severe, inhumane conditions, especially those on Shark Island, in the harbor town of Ruthless, as well as Swahili. It is widely known that the remains of the victims of the genocide were thrown in places like the Namib Desert and also thrown overboard into the Atlantic Ocean. Many of the beautiful buildings we also glorify as the Little Germany in Namibia, in towns of Swakopmund and Walfish Bay, as well as Ruthless, were built by the sweat, the pain, and the blood of the victims of this sad era. Germany states that the admission of guilt is a gesture of recognition of the immeasurable suffering inflicted on the victims. This has been Becky from Sizzle's Diaries. See you next time.
Today's video was brought to you by a friend of tunacheki. Are you an African YouTuber who's passionate about African issues and want to join our Friends of Tunacheki community? Send us an email at tunacheki@gmail.com and we might just feature your video. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our African videos. You can directly support this new series by becoming our YouTube member or becoming a patron. And remember, Africa is watching.